Silence by Smoke Shadow 95, read by Deathlight. Chapter 2, A Whole New Pony. Octavia's eyes bored into the pony behind the counter. He was not being cooperative. She had been to this very hotel on numerous occasions as of late, and had mostly been to rest in between practices, and she was alone. The only difference on this day was the fact that she had another pony accompanying her. Apparently, that was the problem. The pony behind the desk.
"I'm sorry, Miss Melody,"
he said for the fourth time.
"but I simply can't allow that mare to accompany you any further into the hotel."
Behind them, the white mare stood. She hated every second of it since the moment she walked in, or was pulled in. This place was so clean. Elaborate marble fixtures made up most of the interior of the hotel lobby. The smoky white color really caught her eye, but she wasn't focused on that. All she could see was the floor. It was so clean and shiny, she could nearly see her reflection in it, and she really didn't like what she saw. A dirty pony standing in a place of perfection. It was like every step she took was trespassing, every breath a transgression. And all around her, every pony that entered the lobby, she could feel their eyes on her. She could hear their harsh whispers. They stung like needles on her coat. And to make it worse, the mare that had drug her here was bringing even more attention to her.
And why not? My family always has a sweet at the ready here.
Octavia argued.
I would like to make use of it.
"That may be, but the hotel has certain standards,"
he said, but Octavia had stopped listening at this point. She had heard it a million times before. Standards. That was all any pony in this place cared about. Standards. She didn't care much for standards. Not the standards of others, at least. She had her own standards, and she always tried to live up to them.
"I'm sorry, Miss Melody."
The pony behind the desk recited once again.
I don't care about your apologies.
Octavia said, her voice raising a bit more than she intended it to. It was so hard to avoid the sharp edge of her voice. Her tone was slightly harsher than she normally had it. She didn't like it when she got like this. And also she came to a decision. She would not stay here and get stuck in this never-ending argument with this insufferable pony.
"Miss Melody, where are you going?"
To my family's suite.
Octavia replied sharply. She gently guided the other mare along with her.
And I'm taking her with me. Do try and stop me.
As Octavia walked, the white mare looked back at the pony behind the desk. His gaze was intently following her as she walked with Octavia. She waited until the last moment, before they were out of sight behind the elevator doors. As they were closing, she stuck her tongue out, and the pony nearly fainted.
What is going on with me? Why am I acting this way? My attitude just now. I have never treated those ponies, any pony like that before. Even when I was a filly, I had better manners. What is it about this mare? Is it really her that is making me like this?
The elevator ride was fairly uneventful. Octavia stood there and wrestled with her own thoughts. There would be consequences to what she had done, and she knew it. She was almost certain that the desk pony would be on the phone right now, ordering up those consequences. She was worrying about how she was going to deal with them. These thoughts occupied her while her friend stared at her reflection in the shiny walls of the inside of the elevator. The white mare was stunned at her reflection. She moved her face closer, and then back, and then closer again. The walls on the inside of the elevator were shinier than most of the mirrors in her entire neighborhood. Definitely better than any she had in her crummy apartment. She couldn't believe how bad she looked. There really wasn't anything she could do about her coat at the moment, but maybe she could fix up her mane a bit. She shook her head back and forth a few times, as if shaking her mane into a possible style. The only thing it really did was untangle around her horn.
Oh my!
Octavia suddenly exclaimed. She looked over at the mare, who looked back through her reflection.
I just realized that I never asked you your name. And that you were a unicorn, apparently.
The mare nodded with a smile, and turned to face Octavia. She lit her horn with magic. and small sparks danced off her horn with little trails of light behind them. She bobbed her head a few times, shaking a few more sparks loose, and spelling out her name in between her and Octavia.
Vinyl Scratch.
Octavia read in the air before the letters faded away.
Well, Vinyl, it's very nice to meet you. My name is Octavia Melody.
Vinyl smiled even more. Her body shook, and a layer of dirt and other such things came off, and fell all over the elevator. She saw how she was making the shiny metal surfaces all dirty and calmed down. Octavia could see a hint of red in her cheeks as she came to be still. Octavia smiled as the elevator slowed to a stop on their floor. It just so happened to be the top floor.
Here we are.
Octavia said.
My family insists on the penthouse suite. Personally, I think it's a little much, but there are some things you just can't get elsewhere.
Octavia led Vinyl into the room. It was bigger than her apartment, and 1,000 times nicer. Short, well-kept golden carpet covered the floor. Each step was a step on a cloud to Vinyl, for the carpet was the best thing her hooves have ever felt. The curtains and rugs were a deep, royal purple color that really drew Vinyl in. Her jaw dropped at just how nice the room was, and that she was actually standing here.
Come on then, you can look around later. Right now, you need a shower. No offense.
Vinyl didn't take offense. She was well aware that she was quite filthy. She nodded to Octavia with a slight smile coming across her face. She was led over to a door on the far side of the room. On the other side of the room was a bathroom. It was just as glorious as the room that she had just come from. A white tile covered up most of the bathroom floor and walls, broken up by the occasional purple patterns. Above the sink, there was a huge mirror. Vinyl couldn't help but sneak a peek at herself.
I'll wait out here.
Octavia said as she moved through the door into the other room. The door closed behind Vinyl, and she stepped into the shower. The frosted glass clinked when she touched it. Vinyl was about to turn on the water when her hoof suddenly stopped. She used her magic to lift the glasses off her face and safely float them over to the counter. Now she could take a shower. The water cascaded down Vinyl's body. It washed over her like nothing she had ever felt before. Everything about the shower was perfect. The water pressure was just right, and the temperature was a perfect mix of warm, but not too hot. She stood there and let it just wash over her. Her body was being cleansed of the grime of the city that she had been exposed to. She could feel the filth falling away with each passing second, and she was loving it. Vinyl could stay there for an eternity, but sounds from the other room brought her back to reality. Vinyl quickly shut the shower off. The noise stopped until the sound of the water dripping off her body could be heard. Well, that and the sounds from the other room. It was louder now, easier to hear. She couldn't make out what it was, though. She pushed open the shower door and stepped out. Looked around real quickly, only to realize there wasn't a towel to dry herself off with. She started to worry about if she should leave the bathroom or not. She didn't want to be all wet and walk all over that nice carpet in the other room. A sudden, loud shouting helped ease Vinyl's worry. She quickly grabbed her shades and moved closer to the bathroom door, quietly pushing it open just enough to poke her head through. Octavia was on the phone with somebody, and it wasn't a nice conversation.
Can't have random, filthy ponies just wandering in and taking rooms, Octavia.
She was not some random pony. I brought her here.
A lapse in judgment on your part, my dear.
That is your opinion, Mother, but...
Do not talk back to me, child. You have done enough for one day. I'm just glad that the desk called me when they did.
I am an adult now, Mother!
Octavia yelled through the phone.
I can make my own decisions and handle any consequences that may or may not come with them.
You are an adult, Octavia. But that doesn't mean you can just bring in strays from the street.
Please, don't call her a stray.
Enough of this, Octavia! I will deal with you later.
A click on the other end signified that the call had ended. While the call may have ended, the conversation itself was far from over with. Octavia was sure to make a note to talk with her mother in the future. She tossed the phone over her shoulder and it landed on the bed. Octavia continued to stare out the window. She was completely oblivious to Vinyl watching her from the bathroom. She probably wouldn't have known if it wasn't for Vinyl herself. Her dripping body had water covering the floor. She took a step back and slipped, lightly hitting the door with his shoulder.
Oh my.
Octavia said as she spun around to face the bathroom. She saw Vinyl standing there, with her head sticking out.
I'm sorry. I never meant for you to hear that, Vinyl. My mother can be an insufferable pony.
Vinyl shrank back into the bathroom a bit. Octavia couldn't help but smile at her shyness and trotted over to her. She went in and pushed Vinyl out of the large room. She came back out with a towel and playfully tossed it over Vinyl's head. Vinyl's eyes peeked out from under it, and Octavia let out a giggle. Vinyl took up the towel in her magic and dried herself off with the absolute softest towel she had ever felt in her entire life.
You don't talk much, do you?
Octavia asked. Vinyl kept howling. She moved it down from her head to her back and enjoyed the momentary bliss from the towel. She did a quick fluff of her tail before turning back to Octavia. She shook her head just enough to tell Octavia that she didn't talk much. As she said, she finished drying and Octavia took the towel from her. She went and tossed it into a countertop in the bathroom.
Well now.
Octavia said as she looked at Vinyl.
You're like a whole new pony. I knew there was one under all that filth. What do you think?
Octavia led Vinyl over to a tall standing mirror tucked away in the far corner of the room. Vinyl looked at it. She could hardly believe what she saw. Octavia was right. It was like seeing a completely different pony. She had never really been this clean. Not where she lived in the city, at least. And running from those two sleazy ponies made her even more filthy. Vinyl's eyes widened, and her mouth formed a smile. She nodded vigorously, with much joy of what she saw. Her electric blue mane bouncing with every movement.
Good. I'm glad to see it.
Octavia moved for the window, only being stopped by a weight coming down over her body. Before she knew what it was, Vinyl had wrapped her hooves around Octavia's neck. She held the gray mare in a close hug for an eternal moment before releasing her.
Vinyl, what?
Octavia never got the words out. She looked over at Vinyl. She was sitting on the floor a few paces away. Still smiling, she filled the air with magic. Bright, neon-colored sparks danced around her horn while she spelled out the words she needed. Thank you.
Well, you are most welcome, Vinyl.
Octavia said. A slight blush was rising up in her cheeks. She was really hoping that Vinyl wouldn't notice.
I take it you haven't met that many kind ponies in the city, then?
Vinyl shook her head. That was a no. For most of Vinyl's life, she never really gotten treated that well by any pony. She was always being yelled at, used, or otherwise taken advantage of. She hated that part of her life. But now, she had met Octavia. And ever since then, she had been happy. Really happy. She didn't want to lose that.
That's quite terrible, actually.
Octavia admitted.
I don't see why they wouldn't be nice. You don't seem like that bad of a pony to me.
Vinyl's smile only got bigger. Her heart pounded as she and Octavia walked over to the window. They were on the top floor of one of the nicest hotels in Manhattan. The early afternoon light was shining down over the city, bathing it in a beautiful glow. Vinyl had never seen anything like it. She had ever only seen the city from around where her little dingy apartment was. It was a far cry from this place. She had a hard time thinking about going back after seeing this.
Makes you just want to sit here forever and watch the sunset as it comes.
Octavia said. Vinyl nodded in agreement, but Octavia wasn't looking at her. She was still staring out the window, but she was right. Vinyl did want to stay here forever. She didn't want to leave this spot. She didn't want to leave Octavia. And so, she looked out over the city with her, until her eyes fell upon one place in particular. She held her hoof up to the window, gently placing it on the glass with a feeling of longing that even Octavia could feel. Octavia's eyes followed the path down.
The amphitheater? Oh, the time!
Octavia suddenly exclaimed.
I had nearly forgotten about the concert. It's going to start in a couple hours.
She sprang up quickly and began to run around the room quickly, checking drawers and looking at herself in the mirror. Vinyl turned around and watched her for a few moments. Octavia was fretting about in front of the mirror. She was trying to get something tied around her neck, but Vinyl wasn't quite sure what it was. She had already torn one off before getting another out of the drawer. Vinyl sat there and watched, until she had a little neon spark dancing around her horn. Octavia stared intensely into the mirror. She was focused on tying this bow tie properly, with all the style and grace that she had been raised up with. Unfortunately, she was having trouble, because the tall standing mirror which she was facing was mysteriously fogging up. In a matter of seconds, it is impossible to see anything in the mirror.
Vinyl?
Octavia said. Sure, it was of her magic causing this.
What are you...
She turned around to face the unicorn in question. She found out she was right. She could see the magic flowing around Vinyl's horn. But her words were interrupted by Vinyl firmly pointing her up back in the mirror. Octavia didn't quite understand, but she looked back anyways. The words were seemingly written out with a hoof in the fogged up mirror. Octavia was simply taken aback. She stopped her fretting and relaxed a little bit. She let out a sigh and turned back to face Vinyl.
Thank you, Vinyl. I don't even know what I'm doing. The concert doesn't start for a couple hours yet.
It was Vinyl's turn to jump up and be excited, and that's what she did. She jumped up from the floor and faced the window again. She pointed with the hoof out at the amphitheater. She tapped the glass a few times in her excitement.
You want to go to the amphitheater? Vinyl, are you into music?
Vinyl nodded vigorously, and she stood up on her back legs. She magically made a couple of neon floating discs. She put one hoof on one of the discs, and the other by her ear. She went through a few motions, her head bobbing up and down to the beat of some unknown music. Whatever it was, Octavia didn't know.
I have no idea what you're doing.
Octavia said with a laugh. Vinyl stopped and looked at Octavia. Because of her wild movements, her head was at a weird angle. But even at that angle, Octavia could tell that she was confused. Not like before. It was more like disbelief that Octavia didn't know what she was doing. Anyways, Vinyl let her magic disperse, and went back to standing next to Octavia.
Come on then, let's go.
Vinyl's spirits soared, and she raced Octavia to the elevator. She's practically stomping her hooves with anticipation as she thought about the amphitheater. It was one of those places where young ponies sneaked into to get into trouble usually, or where more important ponies go to do classy things, usually listen to some classy music or something. Vinyl always wanted to go and test her music there, but she knew she was never going to get in. But now, she was actually going. She looked at Octavia. She was the one pony she barely knew, but had been nicer to her than almost any other. At that moment, something deep inside Vinyl stirred. It was a strange and sudden sensation she had never felt before. She could feel her body getting a little hotter. Her heart was racing faster than ever. Was it just excitement, or was it something else? Everything she was seeing was apparently brighter as well. Every color more vibrant. Vinyl wasn't sure exactly what this feeling was, but she really didn't mind it either, as long as she was with Octavia.